Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to learn about the lymphatic system. The system, which consists of lymphatic ducts and lymphatic organs, is called lymphatic system. Simply we can say that lymphatic system is composed of three main parts. The lymph is the fluid which is drained through the lymphatic system. Number two, the lymphatic ducts. Lymphatic ducts are the vessels through which the lymph or the fluid is transported to the general circulation. And lymphatic organs are the organs which are responsible for defense mechanism of the body. There are three main functions of the lymphatic system. Number one, the drainage of interstitial fluid. The drainage of interstitial fluid. Interstitial fluid is drained through the lymphatic system or through the lymphatic duct into the general circulation. I will come to the interstitial fluid in detail later. Number two, the defense mechanism of the body. And number three, for the absorption of lipids and lipid soluble vitamins, for example vitamin A, for example vitamin D, E, K, etc. Now coming towards the lymphatic system in detail, coming to the first slide. In this slide we can see that this is heart. From the heart, aorta arises. This is aorta, and this aorta give multiple branches of various arteries. For example, this is one of the artery, and this artery gave further branches as arteriole, and this arteriole gave further branches as meta-arteriole, and this meta-arteriole gave further branches as capillaries, and those capillaries are then diverted towards the venous system, and these capillaries combine together to form over here or to drain the blood into the into the venules, and then the venlets, and then the veins, and then the vena cava, and then towards the right atrium of the heart. Simply this diagram represents the systemic circulation from the heart to the artery, from the arteries to the capillaries, and from the capillaries back to the venous system, and from the venous system back to the heart. Going to the second slide. In this slide we can see that all around the capillaries over here multiple number of cells are there. These are various tissues, and in between these tissue there is in between these cells there is space, and that space is called interstitial space. So when the blood comes from the arterial system towards the capillaries, the blood is filtered over here. The blood is filtered over here, and the plasma goes towards the interstitial space. That plasma contains small number of small proteins, and the large protein and the blood cells are drained towards the venous system, and that goes towards the heart. We can see that when the blood comes from the arterial system towards the capillaries, from the capillaries that blood goes back to the venous system, but some of the blood is filtered over here. The blood is filtered over here, and the plasma goes into interstitial spaces over here. When the plasma goes into interstitial space, that plasma after going into interstitial space, that divert back into the capillaries, and then to the venous system, and then to the heart. But by this mechanism only 2/3 of the plasma goes back to the venous system. 2/3 of the plasma go back to the capillaries and then to the venous system, but 1/3 of the plasma is still over here inside the interstitial space. Now what to do with 1/3 of the plasma? That 1/3 of the plasma from the interstitial spaces is transferred to the general circulation with the help of lymphatic system. That is the lymphatic system which shows its significance over here for the drainage of 1/3 of the plasma from the interstitial space into the general circulation. Look at the interstitial spaces over here, that the lymphatic system is represented by green color, and these green color represent over here the lymphatic capillaries. Lymphatic capillaries are over here in between the interstitial spaces. The 1/3 of the fluid is transferred to the lymphatic capillaries over here, and that fluid is transferred from the lymphatic capillaries towards the larger lymphatic vessels, and from the lymphatic vessel that goes towards the lymphatic trunk. From the lymphatic vessel it goes into the lymphatic trunk, and from the lymphatic trunk it goes to the lymphatic ducts, and from the lymphatic ducts it goes to the venous system. I'm going to show you in detail. Firstly, you should know that what type of fluid is transferred through these lymphatic system. The fluid which is transferred to this lymphatic system is called lymph, and that lymph is having the same composition as that of the plasma. When the plasma is over here in between the interstitial space, that is called interstitial fluid, and when that plasma is inside the lymphatic system, then that plasma is called lymph. There is no difference in composition of the lymph and interstitial fluid. The only difference between the lymph and interstitial fluid is that the interstitial fluid is present in between the interstitial spaces, and the lymph is present inside the lymphatic vessels and lymphatic capillaries and whole lymphatic system. Now going to the next slide. In this slide we can see that the lymphatic system drain the blood towards the heart. How it drains the blood towards the heart, I'm going to show you the full distribution. First of all, you should know that this is the right atrium of the heart, and to the right atrium of the heart what goes? The inferior vena cava and superior vena cava goes to the right atrium of the heart. And over here you can see that this superior vena cava gave two branches. This is the right brachiocephalic branch, and this is the left brachiocephalic branch. The right brachiocephalic branch further gave two main branches. This is the right subclavian vein, and this is the internal jugular vein. Same as the case with this. This is the left brachiocephalic branch of the vein. This is the left subclavian vein, and this is the left internal jugular vein. You should know over here that where the right brachiocephalic and the left brachiocephalic vein are bifurcated into right the internal jugular vein and right subclavian vein, over here this bifurcation point, to this bifurcation point and to this bifurcation point, the lymphatic system drain the lymph into the venous system. The largest lymphatic vessels are the lymphatic ducts. Two lymphatic ducts are there inside the lymphatic system. One of the lymphatic duct is this one. This is the largest lymphatic duct, and this is called thoracic duct. I'm going to write it. Thoracic duct. And number 2, it should be quite clear over here that number 2, that is this one. This is also the second largest lymphatic duct, and this is called what? This is called right lymphatic duct. Right lymphatic duct. The right lymphatic duct, this is very small. This is having large diameter, but this is very small in length. The length of the right lymphatic duct is 0.5 inch. This is very small, having very small length, while this one, the thoracic duct is having large diameter as well as large length also. You can see over here that this is up to 18 inches in length. First of all, the right lymphatic, this is very simple. The right lymphatic duct is very simple, so I'm going to show you the branches, the main branches of the right lymphatic duct. The right lymphatic duct is having 3 main branches, as I have shown over here. The right internal jugular, the right internal jugular trunk. This is not called duct over here. This is the trunk. This is another trunk, and this is three trunk combined together to make a duct over here. So this is the right internal jugular trunk. Three main branches of the right lymphatic ducts are the number one, this one, the right internal jugular trunk. Number two, the right subclavian trunk. And number three, this is very important, the right bronchomediastinal trunk. These three trunks combine together to make the right lymphatic duct. So the right internal jugular, first of all, the right internal jugular trunk, that is this one. This drain the lymph or the interstitial fluid. This drain the interstitial fluid from the neck region and upper part of the upper right part of the head. It drain the lymph from the upper part of right part of the head and the neck region. This is the second one, the right subclavian trunk. The right subclavian trunk drain the lymph from the right upper limb, from the right upper arm, from the right arm. And the next one is the right bronchomediastinal trunk. The right bronchomediastinal trunk, this one, this drain the lymph from the right side of the thorax region and the mediastinal region. From the right mediastinum and from the right thorax region, it drain what? It drain the lymph towards the right lymphatic duct. Similarly, coming towards the thoracic duct. Thoracic duct is the large one. That's why I'm going to show you in the second one. This is the thoracic duct. This thoracic duct over here, you can see that this drain the lymph from various parts of the body, especially from the left side of the body. From 1/3 of the body, this right lymphatic duct is responsible to drain the lymph, and from the 2/3 of the left side of the body, it drain the lymph towards the general circulation, towards the venous system. Now this is the thoracic. This is the thoracic duct. Over here, you can see that this side. To this side, you can see. This is the left mediastinal bronchomediastinal trunk. This is the left bronchomediastinal trunk, just like this one. Over here, this was the right bronchomediastinal trunk. So over here, this is the left bronchomediastinal trunk. The next one, this one, this is the intestinal trunk. This is just simply the intestinal trunk. This drain the blood from the intestine. This drain the lymph from the intestine, from the intestinal region, from the pair patches. I will show you later in detail. But this drain the lymph from the intestinal region, and this drain the lymph from the left thorax region, left mediastinum and left thorax region. Now in this slide you can see that this thoracic duct, as I have explained in the previous slide, that the two branches, this is the intestinal trunk, this is the left mediastinal trunk. Two branches are there and two branches are there. This is the left internal jugular trunk. I am going to write it, left internal jugular trunk. The next one, this one, this is the left subclavian trunk. This is the left subclavian trunk. Now, as you know that this drain the blood from the left side of the head and neck region. This drain the lymph from the left side of the head and the neck region, and this drain the lymph from the left upper limb or the left arm. Now these two, this is the right lumbar trunk and this is the left lumbar trunk. The right lumbar trunk and the left lumbar trunk. So you are now quite clear about this whole diagram, that the thoracic duct, duct has 6 main branches. The first branch is the left internal jugular trunk, the left subclavian trunk, the left bronchomediastinal trunk, the the intestinal trunk. This is the right lumbar trunk and this is the left lumbar trunk. All of these combined together to make what? To make the thoracic duct. And similarly, these 3 trunk combined together to make the right lymphatic duct. In the intestinal region, the lymphatic capillaries are called lacteals. These are considered as the lacteal. In the intestinal region, as this is the intestinal trunk, so intestinal trunk gave further branches over here, the lymphatic vessels, and these gave branches as lymphatic capillaries. And these lymphatic capillaries do what? These lymphatic capillaries are called the lacteals, and these are responsible for the absorption of fats and fat soluble vitamins. In this diagram you can see that large number of lymphatic vessels are having multiple small organs that are called lymph nodes. Over here this is lymph node, this is lymph node, this is lymph node. In the groin area there are large number of lymph node. In the armpit there are large number of lymph node. In the neck region there are lymph node. In the pharynx there are also lymph node. In the thorax region there are large number of lymph node, and inside even the intestinal region or in the abdominal region there are large number of lymph nodes. Large number of lymph nodes are all over the body that are responsible for the defense mechanism of the body. I'm going to show you in detail that what is the difference between the nodes and nodule. Some are nodules and some are nodes. So the lymph node and lymph nodule are not very much different from each other. The lymph node is considered as organ, the lymphatic organ. The lymph node is lymphatic organ which is surrounded by a fibrous tissue. That is why that is considered as organ. Any tissue can be considered as organ which is surrounded by a fibrous tissue, and any tissue which is not surrounded by a fibrous tissue, that should not be considered as organ. That is just considered as combination of different tissues, so that is not considered as organ. So the lymph nodule and the lymph, I'm going to write over here that the organs are the lymph node and the lymph nodule. The lymph node is the organ, that is the lymphatic organ which is large in size and that is surrounded by a fibrous tissue, and that consists of what? That consists of macrophages and B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte that is responsible for defense mechanism of the body, that is responsible for the digestion of cell debris, that is responsible for the lysis of the pathogens, bacteria and many other microbes. And the lymph nodules are also responsible for what? Lymph nodules are also responsible for killing, for defense mechanism of the body, but the lymph nodule is not surrounded by fibrous tissue. Lymph nodule, the best example of the lymph nodule is the pear patches. The pear patches, which are group of nodules inside the intestinal region, inside the you can see the abdominal region near the intestine. So the pear patches are what? The pear patches are the nodules, actually the group of nodules which are present all around the intestine inside the abdominal cavity. So the lymph nodule are not considered as lymphatic organ. I will show you in detail that there are two types of lymphatic organ, two main types of lymphatic organs. I will make it clear. Two main types of lymphatic organs. Number one, the primary lymphatic organs and secondary lymphatic organs. The primary lymphatic organs are the which are the primary lymphatic organs? The primary lymphatic organs are the red bone marrow, and what the second one is, you can also simply call it bone marrow or red bone marrow. The second one is thymus gland. These are the primary lymphatic organs, and the secondary lymphatic organs are the lymph nodules and spleen. So the lymph nodules and the spleen are the secondary lymphatic organ. What is the difference between primary and secondary lymphatic organ? The secondary organ is responsible for the formation and maturation of lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are the cells which are responsible for defense mechanism of the body, and which are synthesized, which are there in the lymphatic fluid, and which is responsible for the defense mechanism of the body. So the formation and maturation of the lymphocyte take place in the primary lymphatic organs, while the secondary lymphatic organs are the resident place of the lymphocyte. That work as the resident place of the lymphocyte, where the already mature immunocompetent cells are there inside the secondary lymphatic organs. Now coming towards the end of capillaries. The end of capillaries over here contain the bulb-like structure which are called lymphatic bulb. I'm going to show you. This is the end of the capillary. This is the end of the lymphatic capillary that is surrounded by the interstitium or interstitial fluid and interstitial cells. So these are the cells, and these are the interstitial space, and this is the lymphatic capillary. So the cells of the lymphatic capillaries are connected at one side. The one side of the cells of the lymphatic capillaries are connected with the surrounding cells with the help of fibrous elastic tissue, elastic fiber. So when the fluid is accumulated all around over here in between the interstitial spaces, the fluid is accumulated, the plasma is accumulated. What happens when the plasma is accumulated over here? These cells are the gap in between these cells is increased. When the gap in between these cells is increased, what happens? This elastic fiber is straightened. This elastic fiber goes under tension, and what happens? It drag these cells. These elastic fiber drag the cells outward. When these drag the cell outward, what happens? The gap over here is increased, and the fluid is transferred from the interstitial spaces into the lymphatic capillary. When the fluid is transferred to the lymphatic capillary, the pressure outside is decreased and the pressure inside is increased. What happened then? This lymphatic bulb, the end of the lymphatic capillary is called lymphatic bulb. This lymphatic bulb is surrounded by smooth muscles, and these smooth muscles are continuously contracting and relaxing. When it contracts, what happened? It pushed the lymphatic fluid, it pushed the lymph toward the larger lymphatic vessels. So you can see over here that the lymphatic capillaries or the lymphatic vessels contain what? It contain walls which allow only one-sided flow of the lymphatic fluid. It allow only one-sided flow. So this was all about the transport of the lymphatic fluid. Now coming toward the formation of the lymphocytes. There are two main types of lymphocyte. I'm going to write over here. The two types of lymphocytes are there. The two types of lymphocytes, the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes. The B lymphocyte and T lymphocytes both are synthesized. Where? Both are synthesized in the bone marrow, in the red bone marrow. Actually, this is the bone, and this end and this end are the epiphyses, are the epiphyses of the bone, and the middle area of the bone is called diaphyses. The lateral side of the bone are the epiphyses, and the middle side of the bone is called diaphyses. So inside the diaphyses, diaphyses is very hollow, and the epiphyses is not hollow. That is spongy. That is spongy, and this is hollow. So the hollow diaphyses contain what? It contain the matrix, and that is called bone marrow. Over here the red bone marrow is present, and over here the yellow bone marrow is present. The red bone marrow is working as the stem cells. The stem cells are over here in the red bone marrow, while the yellow bone marrow is not responsible for the formation of blood cells or the lymphocytes, while the red bone marrow is responsible for formation of lymphocytes and the white blood cells and the red blood cells and the platelets also. What does the yellow bone marrow do? The yellow bone marrow is also very important for the body, because when the red bone marrow is deficient inside the body, and when the body is undergoing very critical condition, then and the red bone marrow is very deficient in the body, what happened? The yellow bone marrow start converging into the red bone marrow, and the yellow bone marrow, when converted into red bone marrow, that red bone marrow then work for the stem cells, or for the conversion into various types of blood cells, so various types of cells. So the red bone marrow synthesize what? The red bone marrow contain the stem cells, and that make the platelets, that make the red blood cell, that make the white blood cell, and that make the lymphocytes. So two types of lymphocytes are synthesized inside the red bone marrow. Synthesize two types of lymphocyte for the lymphatic system. So which lymphocyte? The B lymphocyte and the T lymphocyte. So the red bone marrow, firstly the red bone marrow synthesize the immature T lymphocyte, that are called the pre-T lymphocyte, and the mature B lymphocyte. It's synthesized, it produce the mature B lymphocyte, which are immunocompetent, that can arouse the immune system, that can start immunity against the pathogen. But the T lymphocyte, which are synthesized inside the red bone marrow, that is the free T lymphocyte, and that pre-T lymphocyte is transferred towards the thymus. Thymus is another primary Thymus is another primary lymphatic organ, where the maturation of pre-T lymphocyte take place. And when the pre-T lymphocyte is matured inside the thymus, what happens? That T lymphocyte, those T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte are transported towards the nodules and nodes. lymph nodes and nodules, and all the lymph node contain the macrophages and the B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte, and they are responsible for what? They are responsible, all of those are responsible for the digestion of cell debris, that are responsible for neutralization of toxin, that are responsible for the engulfing of various pathogen, for the lysis of various pathogen, and for the neutralization of toxic substances. Why the B lymphocyte are called B lymphocyte? These are called B lymphocyte because these firstly the B lymphocyte were discovered. You can say that that was figured out in the bursa of Fabricius. Bursa of Fabricius is the region. This is a node-like region over here. Inside the birds, that is called bursa Fabricius, and that bursa Fabricius were firstly the B lymphocyte were detected inside the bursa Fabricius. That's why that is called B lymphocyte. These, though the B lymphocyte are synthesized inside the bone marrow, but firstly this was figured out inside the bursa fabricius of the birds. That's why this is called the B lymphocyte, and the T lymphocyte are called T lymphocyte because these are matured inside the thymus, T part thymus. So that is why these are called T lymphocytes.